Check, check. Check 1 2 1 2. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Horror Humpdays episode 25. And it has been a while, so welcome back. If you're coming back and you didn't make it to last night's tunes for Tuesday, I've been back after a couple of weeks. I spent a week sick and the other week recovering. So I had influenza A with pneumonia chasing it afterwards. And yeah, it was not a good time. But I'm finally out of the woods and glad to be back here and reading to you guys. And tonight is kind of a special night because we are finishing the book Sleepwalker. This came out in 2022, I believe. Let me see here. Yes, welcome to No Sleep Wednesday. Hey, Beth. Yes, I am very glad to be feeling better too. Shannon, hey, how's it going? I'm glad to be back, man. I'm very glad to be back. Yes, this came out in 2022. If you guys are interested in it, if you don't have a copy of it, you can order it from Amazon. And I added a link here somewhere on this feed. Anyhow, also I want to remind you guys that stars is a way to monetize what I'm doing. Doesn't cost you anything, but if you can, there should be somewhere right around where the like buttons are. There should be like a star on there, and if you guys click on the star, then that helps monetize tonight's live stream. So, and if you could click on those stars, I'd very much appreciate it. Hey, Jessica, welcome. It's story hour, your favorite hour of the week. So, yeah, so if you guys could do that, I would greatly appreciate it. It's a good way to bring a little bit of tiny income. I think it's like 3 cents a star that gets paid to me. But yeah, if you guys could do that, that would really help me out, and we can get some more some merch stuff made. I do have Michael Burns' wife, Amy, had made some T-shirts that were kind of commissioned by my friend Pimo, and so and the shirts look pretty nice. So yeah, I might do that. Steph is on board here where they're farting bees and they're fighting farting badgers. I'm sure soon to be joined by Chuckles. So yeah, so there's lots of cool things coming on down the road here. I'd like to get some bookmarks made as well, some stickers and stuff like that with the b.hive logo on it. So just to advertise a little bit more, advertise the shows and the books and everything else. So after this week, next week, I am going to start reading from my latest book, Thin Spots, which is this thick bastard right here. I plan on starting to read this next week, and it should be fun. There's plenty of stories in there, so I'm very proud of that one. That one is kind of my baby. And someone else has some promotional items in the works as well, Steph. So anyhow, yeah, so we've got, we're trying to find different ways to kind of market the brand and everything. So without further ado, let's finish out tonight's chapter and finish tonight's book, Sleepwalker. So the book, and I know I've probably explained this to you guys before, came about. I was hunting with my friend Jim, and we went out at about 4:30 in the morning, and we're up in I'm up in the tree stand, and the sun isn't up yet, so I fell asleep. And when I fell asleep, I began dreaming, and I was dreaming about, I was dreaming that I was awake, and then every time I woke up, there was something different about the reality I woke up in, and then I'd wake up again, and I'd end up in another reality, and I kept doing that over and over again. So when I finally did wake up in this reality, I was pretty exhausted and ready to take another nap. But I was a little shaky for a while because I wasn't sure if I was in the right one or not. But yeah, that's how this book came about, and it's kind of a tribute to my friendship with Jim West, somebody I had gone to high school with and grew up with. And so the character Jeff Eastman is modeled after him. A little bit different. I try to do his voice when I've been reading this book, and he always comes out sounding like Hank Hill. So not Henry Hill, Hank Hill. So, but yeah, I hope he appreciates that. If not, I'll hear about it later. All right. So, all right, without further ado, let's get into Sleepwalker. Tonight's chapter is Brothers, and I thought since there's been such a gap between tonight and the last time I read to you guys, I would read the last paragraph from the last chapter, so we're kind of caught up. In the last chapter, Bo woke up in... So he's been waking up in these realities. First reality was the Wendigo. Second one was a pandemic. And then another one was a pioneer vampire. And there was an atomic war in another one, an alien invasion. And even the beginning of a zombie apocalypse in the other one. This chapter here, the one we're about to go into, Bo finally makes it home. But not before falling into the first the first reality he woke up in, which is with the Wendigo. And yeah, he faced him in the last chapter I read to you guys, and I will start tonight with the last paragraph from that chapter. That's it, he thought to himself. That's the thin spot. Bo dug his boot into the ground and gripped his talisman. What are you planning, human? It spat. I've killed and eaten your shaman. Now I'm gonna kill and eat you. Bo ran as fast as and as hard as he could at the Wendigo. He surprised it and was easily lifted off its feet, and Bo tackled it through the thin spot. There was a suction of air, then icy hot coldness, then a loud pop, and things went from bright white to pitch black. Brothers. Daylight flooded the valley. Despite the brightness of the morning sun, it did not burn away the dense fog that blanketed the valley before him. But he held out hope. Will had never steered them wrong before. There had been noises in the fog, breaking branches and leaves being stepped on within that thickness. He knew there had to be deer in there. He carefully unscrewed the top of his canteen and took a quiet gulp of water. He adjusted his cushion and brought out his binoculars. He scanned the valley and could only make out shapes that could be a deer, or they could just be shadows of the fallen trees. He passed his scan over to Bo's spot and couldn't glimpse a view of his friend. Is he off taking a piss? He thought to himself. He looked around the perimeter of his friend's spot and couldn't see his bright orange coat and hat anywhere in his field of vision. To his right, he heard the crack of a branch, and he immediately swept in that direction. An 8-point buck stood cautiously just outside the valley. It sniffed the air and swiveled its head side to side. When it felt safe, it stepped up onto the berm and was about 100 feet from Jeff. Oh, Jesus Christ, Jeff thought. He slowly lowered his binoculars and lifted his AR-15. The buck swung its head towards him and sniffed the air. Easy now. Its ears twitched, and its front legs pawed at the ground in front of it. It heard him, but didn't know exactly where he was. Jeff flicked the safety off with his thumb and took aim. A red dot moved about the deer's torso and rested on its chest where its heart lay beating. Gotcha. A shot rang out. Then an explosion of tree bark and moss popped up from the stump in front of the buck. What in the actual fuck? Jeff muttered softly. Are my sights off? I thought I sighted this thing yesterday. The deer, in its adolescent defiance, only looked down at the stump and then back up at Jeff, as if saying, Is that all you got? Jeff adjusted himself and took aim again. But before he could pull the trigger, there was a loud, echoing pop from the other side of the valley. It scared off the buck, as well as a herd of about 9 deer. What in the hell was that? Jeff said, lowering his gun and grabbing his binoculars again. There was growling and screeching that didn't sound human, mingled with screaming that did. He pointed his binoculars towards Bo's spot, and he could see his friend wrestling with something. He pulled up his walkie. Hey, man, the fuck is that thing? There was no answer. But he could see that his friend was in trouble. He stood up and slid his way into the valley and began a fast run into the fog. I'm coming, bro, Jeff shouted. Hang in there. When he got to the other side, this thing was throwing Bo through the air, and he hit a diseased tree. His friend looked as broken as the tree was. Bo! Jeff shouted. Jeff, Bo said, crumpled on the ground. Is that you, man? The Wendigo hissed at Jeff and lumbered towards him. Jeff fired off several rounds into its head, and it screeched and fell back. Go for its eyes, Bo mumbled, lying on the ground, holding his sides. I got one of them. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, Jeff shouted. What is that thing? But Jeff knew. Deep down, he knew exactly what it was. It was staring at him now. One socket filled with coagulated black goo, and the other was a small hypnotic light. He tried not to stare at the light, but he couldn't help himself. It seemed to drain all the energy out of him. Close your eyes, Bo began to shout. Don't let it possess you. But it looked like it was too late. Jeff's hands fell to his sides, and his gun hung from its strap. A blank stare affixed to his face. He began to feel angry. No, maybe rageful was a better word to describe it. He was filling with rage and hate. His stomach felt empty. So empty he'd be willing to eat anything, including... The Wendigo broke its stare and screamed out at the top of its lungs in a pitch so high it made Bo and Jeff's ears hurt. A knife pushed its way through the creature's chest. Bo had gotten it from behind to break its spell. It swung around and knocked Bo backwards again. Jeff got his consciousness back and sprayed the monster's face with another barrage of bullets. But none of them connected with its surviving eye. But it began clawing at its own face, trying to pull the bullets out. Jeff then went over to Bo and checked his pulse. It was there, but he lost consciousness. "Come on, buddy," Jeff pleaded. "I need you. Wake the fuck up." He tried pulling him up, but he wouldn't budge. "Sorry about this, man." Jeff pressed at the side he noticed his friend was nursing, and Bo's eyes flipped wide open, and he shouted in pain. "The fuck, Jeff?" Bo moaned. "Sorry, but you gotta get up. I can't do this alone." Bo stood up with Jeff, and together they stood face to face with the Wendigo. The face was bleeding from the claw marks it had given itself, but it still had one eye left, glaring at the two of them. "How many rounds you got left?" Jeff asked. 3, Bo answered. "I think. We're gonna have to take this thing on mano a mano." "Son of a bitch. In order to get to that eye, we're gonna have to distract it. Any ideas?" Bo screamed and ran straight at it. "Well, I guess that will work," Jeff said. Bo connected with it, and they tumbled to the ground. Unfortunately, they rolled, and the Wendigo got the advantage and was on top. It took one of its claws from its index finger and began stabbing it into Bo's previous wounds. "Fuck, man!" Bo screamed. "It's killing me!" Suddenly, there was a large snapping sound, and the Wendigo let out a growl. Jeff had broken off one of its protruding bones and then pulled it back in a rear chokehold. Bo tried getting up, but he had lost a lot of blood, and the world was swimming in his head. Jeff was trying to fit the sharp end of bone into the Wendigo's good eye socket, but was having trouble doing it blindly from behind the monster's head. With the last of his strength and consciousness, Bo rolled onto the Wendigo and grabbed Jeff's hand with the bone in it. Together, they drove the jagged end deep into its eye sockets. The cold light flashed out, and then black ichor jet from the hole and sprayed Bo in the face before he fell back into blackness. The Wendigo clawed away at its face until there was nothing but bone left, and then it finally went limp. Its bones began to smoke, and its body got lighter. Jeff pushed it off and sat up to tend to Bo. "Come on, brother," he said. His voice was choked, and his eyes were watering. "Come on, man. I can't lose you." There was no response. He lifted Bo onto his shoulders like a deer carcass and began a slow run towards his truck. He took one look back to make sure that thing didn't get back up, but there was only a smoldering pile of bones that was slowly disintegrating. Jeff laid his friend on the tailgate of his truck. He felt for a pulse and couldn't feel one, mainly because his hands were numb from the cold and all the fighting. He put his ears to Bo's face to listen and feel for breath. There was something there, he thought. It could be the breeze, but he thought it was warm breath he felt on his cheek. "Hang in there, man," Jeff said, and slid him into the back of his truck. When Bo opened his eyes, he was frightened. He knew he was in a hospital, but he didn't know if he was home. He scanned the room. It was white with dark blue privacy shades on the windows. A heart monitor beeped in the background, and a med bag filled with some painkiller was dripping through an IV into his hand. "You're awake," a familiar voice spoke up from a dark corner of his room. "Jeff?" he asked with a mouth that felt filled with cotton. "Hey, brother." It was Jeff. He smiled, grabbed Bo's hand, and gave it a squeeze. "How you feeling?" "Like I lost a fight with a grizzly bear. Where am I?" "Grand Itasca Hospital." "In Grand Rapids?" "Yeah, why?" Bo thought about the episode in Grand Rapids and shivered. There haven't been any weird sirens or anything, has there? What? Jeff looked at him strangely. What are you talking about? Nothing. Bo felt around on his chest. He hissed when he dragged his fingers across the staples holding his chest together. Easy now. Where's my necklace? The talisman? I'm sure it's in a bag with the rest of your stuff. Take it easy. I need it. Will you find it for me? Bo tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot up from his rib cage and sternum, and he fell back onto his bed. Settle down, buddy. What's got you so worked up? I really need that talisman. Jeff walked over to the closet next to his friend's bed and opened it. Jeff had found some clean clothes in his backpack at the cabin and hung them up in here for Bo. On a tiny hook, a plastic bag with a drawstring hung. He opened it up and found a tiny dream catcher carved in red stone. This what you're all talking about? Jeff asked. Yes, give it to me, please, Bo pleaded. Okay, chill out. Here you go. Bo gripped it tight in his hand. He thought handling it would bring back a rush of memories from his reality. But there was no overwhelming wave that knocked him dizzy. Just the same thoughts he had always remembered having, with a touch of paranoia. Everything good? Jeff asked. Yeah, Bo said. His heart warmed as he looked up at his friend. Think I could get a drink of water? Absolutely, bro. I'll pour you a glass and go look for some crushed ice for you. Oh my God, that sounds awesome. Thanks, brother. Yeah, no worries. Oh, yeah, I got a surprise for you, too. A surprise? Okay, girls, you can come in now. The door to his room opened, and his daughters came in. Oh my God! Bo's eyes widened, and a smile spread on his face. What are you girls doing here? They both ran and squeezed him. It hurt like hell, but he didn't care. Uncle Jeff called us, Libby said. It sounded pretty serious, so we came. It's so good to see you two. He kissed them both. Where are your boys? Working, they said in unison, and then laughed. Mom says to tell you that she's sorry you got hurt and was glad to hear you're recovering, Kathy said. Well, Bo said, that was nice of her. Dad, I've got some news. You're having a baby? What? Who told you? This was supposed to be a surprise. Libby, did you tell him? Honey, Bo said, grasping Kathy's hand. I just woke up. Your sister couldn't have told me. Then how did you know? Lucky guess, I reckon. I'm happy for you, kiddo. That's awesome news. You're going to be a great mom. Kathy smiled. Thanks, Dad. And what about you, Libby Lou? That was his nickname for his oldest. What? Libby said with a serious look on her face. Babies? Oh, hell no. Everyone laughed. Were you scared, Dad, when you were attacked by that bear? Libby asked, grasping his hand. Bear? He questioned, and then realized that must have been the story Jeff told her. Yeah, I was scared. I didn't think I was going to make it to see Thanksgiving. I'm glad you're okay. Me too, sweetie. Me too. Out in the hall, Jeff was pouring himself a cup of coffee, and then was collecting shaved ice for Bo when his phone rang. Will, Jeff said. How's it going? Good, Will answered. How's Bo doing? He woke up. He was a little disoriented, but once his daughter showed up, he was back to his old self. Good. I'll let Becca know. She's been asking. How much longer is he going to be in the hospital? Hard to say. He's got a chest tube in right now. Help drain the infection in his lungs. Once that is out, he'll probably be allowed to return home to recover. Well, that's good news. What a tough sumbitch he is. Yeah. Hey, I took a ride with the DNR guy this morning. Oh? Yeah, we went up to Wendigo Woods, hoping to find that bear. Any luck? Nah, just a black spot on the ground, like, I don't know, like it had been burned. Did you guys light a fire out there? Nope. I don't know what that's from. I guess this ain't important. Bo is alive for another hunt. Absolutely. Hey, one more thing before you hang up. What's that? You sure it wasn't Bigfoot you two were wrestling around with out there? If it'll help your tourist business, you can say whatever you want, man. To be honest, whatever that thing was, it wasn't any bear I'd ever seen before. There was dead silence on the line. You're fucking with me, ain't ya? Will asked. Maybe, Jeff answered. Fucker. Talk to you later. Tell Bo I said hey. Will do. Jeff walked into the room, and Bo's daughters were just leaving. Well, don't leave on my account, Jeff said. Oh, we're just going to go grab dinner, Libby said. Any suggestions? I heard the Fu King buffet is pretty good, Jeff said with a smile. Chinese. You want us to bring some back with us, Dad? Uncle Jeff? No thanks, honey, Bo said. I'll take a couple egg rolls, Jeff spoke up. The girls left. Uncle Jeff, Bo mused. Papa Bo, Jeff mused back. They both laughed. We've been through a lot together over the years, Bo said reflectively. Since junior high, Jeff said. Outside of you trotting off overseas to fight, we've never missed a hunt. Nope. We've seen each other get married. I was there when you got divorced. We were there when both our parents died. We've been there for each other a lot. Bo squeezed the talisman in his hand and then began to flip it around in his fingers. I had this dream, Bo said. When we were hunkered down waiting for Bambi to come out pouncing out of that damn valley. In the dream, I kept waking up in a different reality. A horrible reality. One after another. And each time I woke up, I was hoping it was this reality I woke up in. But in every reality I woke up in, you were always my friend. Jeff sat on Bo's bed. Bo, he said, I will always be your friend, no matter what reality you're awake in. Just look for me. Bo smiled and teared up a little. Hey, Jeff spoke softly. What the fuck was that thing we fought out there in them woods? Bo sat there quietly for a moment, looking towards the window. Promise you won't think I'm crazy? Bo asked. Well, you're as crazy as a tornado in a feather factory. But please, be honest with me. That was no bear. I couldn't even see you when I looked over there. And then I heard this pop sound, and there you are having an MMA match with something that looked like it crawled out of one of our old Dungeons and Dragons manuals. It was the Wendigo. I wish I could explain to you where it came from, but I can't. I only know that it possessed you in another reality. I had to kill you. I shot you. That the story you're sticking to? Yep. Okay then. Jeff, I'm sorry. I know that sounds like crazy shit, but I knew if I could get it to pass through into this reality, I just knew that you'd be there to help me. We're brothers, Bo. Whatever crazy shit we get into, I will always have your back. I love you, man. And I love you too. And that, my friends, is the end of Sleepwalker. So thank you guys very much for hanging on for the whole journey. I hope you guys enjoyed the ending to that story. I didn't want to be a Stephen King and have everybody hate the ending of my books, so hopefully you guys like that one. So, and it's nice to see that you joined us there, Chuck. Yeah. So, anyhow, that was probably one of my favorite writes. It was kind of fun to write. Some of the stories in there branched into other stories. Like the one with the space station. That one kind of blossomed into the zombie apocalypse and other things. So, well, thank you, Shannon. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and thank you, Beth. I appreciate that. So, yeah. So, getting into the next book. So the book that followed Sleepwalkers is one that is called Pavor Nocturnus, and I did read that book probably about a year and a half ago. Thanks for a great story hour. Looking forward to more. Oh, thank you, Jessica. So, but yeah, and I was gonna read that one next, but I think I don't know. I've been really anxious to kind of spring Thin Spots onto you guys. So I'm going to jump into that book next week. We'll read the first chapter of that book. And a lot of those books dealt with thin spots. This one did, Sleepwalkers, and so did Pavor Nocturnus. And of course, this book is called Thin Spots. So I'm going to have to cuddle with the dog tonight. Well, the dog will bring you comfort, Kevin. You know, dogs tend to do that. Unless he starts growling at thin air or that dark spot in the corner of your room, you know, then that doesn't provide much comfort. Like our dog does every once in a while when you're home alone with her. So, anyhow, yeah, so we'll be jumping into the book Thin Spots next week. If you guys could drop some stars on tonight's broadcast, I very much appreciate those. It all gets collected in a little account, I guess, that Facebook keeps for me. Also, another thing, I need to thank you guys for sharing my events. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, Beth read it, so and she I guess she enjoyed it. So, yeah, so I can't wait to read that to you guys. I haven't read that book to anybody except for I read that Christmas story to you guys on Christmas. But yeah, I'll read that again live this time, so you guys can enjoy a little chit chat with me. Can't wait to hear you read it. Yeah. So Steph is about the only one that's gotten to hear all of my books being read. Because I torture her and read her my stories as I write them and finish them. So Kevin, if you think you got to bed on every Wednesday, she gets to hear it every night. And yeah, and then I wonder why she never sleeps at night. That's probably why. And it doesn't help when Xena growls at nothing on those nights. So yeah, so there you go. So yeah, we'll be reading Thin Spots next week. And I think Tunes for Tuesday next week, I'm going to attempt to play the song that Kevin had asked me to learn, and probably some Jimmy Buffett for my dad, and a mishmash of other things. And hopefully I can have Bobby with me next week to bang around on the cajones. And Chuck, I'm safe. I'm not thin. Neither am I, Chuck. So, but still, my character fell through that thin spot. I believe there's some dialogue in the book where he talks about he wishes he didn't eat so much Burger King because he couldn't slip through a hole to escape zombies. Anyhow, yeah. So we're going to call it a night. I appreciate you guys very much for coming out and coming back after 2 weeks. Very much appreciate that. And yeah, you guys are the reason why I keep doing this, and I very much appreciate you. As I was saying about spreading the word, here is the issue that I've been having with our good friends at Facebook. I am able to invite everybody that's on the follow list for b.hive, but when I go to invite my friends on my own personal profile, it only allows me to invite about 50 people, and then I can't invite anybody else. It tells me I've exceeded the limit of invites, which is something new that's popped up, and it's very irritating because I can't grow my page if I can't invite people to it. So I've been doing my best to try to advertise the night stuff, and if you could help me do that as well, and let your friends and family know about Story Night and or Tunes for Tuesday, either one or both, that would be awesome. And thank you to those that have done that. Thank you to those that have that show up and like the page. If you could click the stars there and send me some stars, I'd really appreciate that. And I want you guys to have a really great night. Shannon, you're very welcome. I love sharing my stories with you guys, and I'm very happy to have you on board. And Kev, you have a great rest of your night. Chuck, have a great night. Kevin, I hope you get some sleep tonight. I really do. Beth, thank you for coming. I don't know where Bobby is. I didn't hear him chime in, but tell him good night and thank you. And Steph, of course, thank you very much for showing up like you do. And and Jessica and everybody else. Appreciate you. Peace. We'll see you next Tuesday on Tunes for Tuesday, 8 o'clock. Mwah. Peace and a bottle of hair grease. Hit those stars. Like and subscribe. Share. Click. Clack.